Hello everyone, today I'm in Rome, Italy's capital city, and the plan for this afternoon is to visit the Colosseum, which is about one block directly ahead there, and then from there to go to Vatican City, which is about 2 miles away. And both the Colosseum and Vatican City are located pretty close to downtown Rome and the train station as well. And anyhow, some background information on the city of Rome. Rome has a current population of approximately 2.8 million people, and at one time the city of Rome was the largest, one of the largest cities in the world, and that was during the peak of the Roman Empire during the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. It is said that over 1 million people lived here in Rome, and that might not sound like much today, but you have to keep in mind this was 1800 to 1900 years ago, and having a city of over 1 million people was quite an accomplishment back then. And the founding of Rome dates back even further to some 2,700 years ago. And much like the diddly games that were played inside of that building there, the Colosseum, the founding of Rome is also a tale of diddly violence as well. According to legend, Rome was founded by Romulus, who with his brother Remus were raised by a she-wolf, and then when they were old enough to venture out on their own, it is said that both Romulus and Remus agreed to found a city. However, they soon came to an argument where Romulus killed his brother, and then following that incident, it is said that Romulus would go on to found Rome in the year 753 BC. So that's 753 years before the birth of Christ, which of course is a very, very long time ago. And then Rome would grow from a small backwater town to one of the largest cities in the world, controlling one of the largest empires in the world, and that would be the Roman Empire. And at its peak, the Roman Empire stretched all the way from Great Britain to Egypt, and that is a feat which has not been replicated even to this day. And though the Roman Empire is no more, many of its significant monuments, such as the Colosseum, still remain. And I apologize for the background noise, but this helicopter has been hovering up there for a good 45 minutes. And apparently here in Rome, and probably Italy as well, they apparently don't have very strict FAA rules about how long helicopters can just stay parked above national monuments. But anyhow, continuing on, and some background information about the Colosseum. The Colosseum was built in the year 80 AD, and it took over 8 years to build. And it's said that construction of the Colosseum was funded primarily through stolen treasure taken from Jerusalem by the Roman army during the Jewish-Roman War of 70 AD. And it is also said that somewhere on the Colosseum there is a plaque which reads, "The Emperor Vespasian ordered this new amphitheater to be erected from his general's share of the booty." And booty would be referring to the stolen treasure which was taken from Israel. And not only was stolen Jewish treasure used to pay for the Colosseum, but it is also speculated that the Jews defeated in battle were brought back here to Rome as slaves to work on the very same Colosseum which their stolen treasure was being used to pay for. And when you consider those 2 points, you can almost look at the Colosseum as a Jewish building. And hopefully I could get into the Colosseum area. They're not closing everything off. And at the time, Rome and the Roman Empire were known to be very big slave states. It's estimated that over 40% of the Roman Empire population were slaves. And the reputation of Rome was so bad at the time that during the siege on Masada, which occurred between 73 and 74 AD, which also coincides with the construction of the Colosseum, that the Jewish rebels on Masada chose suicide rather than being captured alive by the Romans to be brought back to Rome as slaves. And it's said that nearly 1,000 of Masada's Jewish residents jumped from cliffs over 1,300 feet tall. And the story of Masada is a very scary story just in and of itself. And it is remarkable how even that ties into Rome and even the Colosseum. And then even after the Roman Empire fell during the 5th and 6th century, slavery in Rome and present-day Italy would continue, though it would be on a much smaller scale than it was when the Roman Empire was at its peak. And that period would be known as the Dark Ages, following the fall of the Roman Empire. But that might be a little bit of a misnomer, just because life in Rome might not have been that great for most people, especially for the 40% of the population who were slaves. I don't think that they were complaining when the Roman Empire fell. And it is said that the fall of the Roman Empire would decimate Rome, and its population of once over 1 million people would be reduced by over 95% to less than 50,000 people by the 6th century AD. And probably one of the best ways to answer the question of why the Roman Empire fell is to look into the history of some of the monuments that remain. And one of those monuments is the Arch of Constantine, which according to my map is just right around the corner from the Roman Colosseum. And the Arch of Constantine is basically a large arch which was built by Roman Emperor Constantine during the early 4th century AD to commemorate Emperor Constantine's victory over rival Emperor Maxentius. So basically what was happening was the Roman Empire was stuck in a series of civil wars with itself and its own government. They were basically fighting each other, and it is said that in just a 50-year time span before the Arch of Constantine was built, more than 80 emperors had claimed power in Rome, and the rule all but 4 ended with the emperor either being assassinated or killed in battle. So you can say that the job of a Roman emperor was indeed rather dangerous. And there is the Arch of Constantine directly ahead. And also what is interesting about Emperor Constantine would be that he was the first Christian emperor of Rome. And that's a pretty significant development because at that time, during the early 4th century AD, only about 10% of the Roman Empire were Christian. And it's said that Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity after he had a vision from God that he would win the battle against rival Emperor Maxinius. And then Constantine had the name of Jesus printed on his soldiers' shields. And following Emperor Constantine's win on the battlefield, he would come back to Rome and spread Christianity by building the first Christian church, and that would be St. Peter's Basilica, which was built in nearby Vatican City. Emperor Constantine would rule Rome until he died at the age of 65 from natural causes. And what is interesting about that is even 1700 years ago, which was long before the advent of modern medicine or even modern technology, a lot of people were living well into their 60s and 70s. And anyhow, Christianity would continue to grow. And by the end of the 4th century AD, nearly 50% of the Roman Empire would be Christian. And though Christianity wouldn't stop all civil wars or even the eventual fall of Rome, it did eventually put an end to the brutal and barbaric gladiatorial games that were held here inside of the Colosseum. And it said that in its almost 3 centuries of continuous use, over 400,000 people would die here inside of the Colosseum, all in the name of sport and to entertain the public. So indeed, the Christianity, its rise in popularity was having a societal impact here in Rome. And the gladiatorial games would be outlawed in the year 399 AD. And instead of slaves fighting each other to the death, they would instead entertain crowds with animal hunts and reenactments of mock battles. So that indeed was a huge improvement over the fight till death games that they were forced to participate in before. However, even the rise of Christianity would be unable to prevent the fall of the Roman Empire, as less than a century after the gladiatorial games were banned inside of the Colosseum, the Roman Empire would be no more, and the city of Rome itself would be on the verge of being wiped off the map entirely. And here is one of the lines to get inside of the Colosseum. And as you can see, it's rather long, and then there's almost a second line once you're inside to get through the metal detectors and security. So if you do want to view the inside, just make sure you plan ahead and have a lot of extra time. And this is the St. Peter's Basilica, which was the first Christian church built here in Rome. And this is actually the newer version of the St. Peter's Basilica. The old St. Peter's Basilica, which was built by Emperor Constantine during the 4th century AD, would be here for about 1200 years until the 16th century. And then the former St. Peter's Church was torn down to make way for this much larger version of the St. Peter's Basilica. And the church gets its name from St. Peter, who was one of Jesus' 12 apostles and was buried at this very site. St. Peter was also one of the founders of the early Christian church, and he would be crucified here in Rome in about 64 AD. And then surrounding the St. Peter's Basilica is the Vatican City, and not only is it a city, but it is also its very own sovereign state. The Vatican City is built on approximately 120 acres and is home to the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church. Currently, about 764 people live within the walls of the Vatican City, so it is indeed its own little city-state, and it certainly looks like a very nice place to live. And also, if you would like to take a tour of the St. Peter's Basilica, just make sure to plan well in advance, because there is a rather long line here. It starts all the way at the front of the church, and then it looks like it's just wrapping all the way around. They have some security screening directly ahead, and the line continues, and looks like it's at least a full block. It might even be longer than that. So this is a one more very popular tourist destination here in downtown Rome. And this is the boardwalk area that leads up to Vatican City, and this is actually probably one of the nicer areas that I've been to in Rome. And there's a lot of shops, restaurants, and even hotels as well. And directly ahead, that would be the St. Peter's Cathedral and Vatican City. And right next to me, this is one of the hotels in this area. This is the Palazzo Cardinal Sizzi Hotel, and it's listed online as a 4-star hotel, and one night here is $379. And though that's a little bit expensive, it is very centrally located. You're just right next to Vatican City and all the nice expensive shops and restaurants as well. And if you're wondering about how traffic is like in Rome, it is a little bit congested. And something else to keep in mind is, just because you enter one of these crosswalks, that does not necessarily mean that the traffic will stop for you. Sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. It's kind of like just flip a coin. And just down the street from the Colosseum, they have this tourist welcome and information office. And there's also several restaurants in here and a bookstore as well. And if you're wondering what the long line is for, that is to use the restroom. Though first it says you have to pay at the cafe first. And don't forget your spare change, because they charge €1 to use the restroom here. And they also charge at the train station as well. So if you're short on change, your best option might be just to try one of the nearby cafes or restaurants, though it is likely that they will probably want you to purchase something before they will let you use their restrooms. This is the Roma Termini, and not only is it the main train station for Rome, but it's also Italy's largest train station. And this building was built in 1862, though it looks like they did add on to it, because this part does look quite a bit newer than 1862. And this station services every major city in Italy, as well as international destinations throughout Europe. The Roma Termini has 32 train platforms, and over 480,000 people pass through here every day. So it is a very busy station, and I would say this is as busy as most major airports are in the US. And anyhow, today I'm going to walk from the train station to the Colosseum, which according to my map is about 1 mile from here. And it looks like it's going to be a nice sunny day, or maybe partly sunny. It has been raining the last few days. It's early October and never really know what kind of weather that you're gonna get. Temperature wise, it's not too bad. I would say right now is like in the 70s. Here's a McDonald's, and I always like to stop into the McDonald's just to see what a Big Mac meal is, just to get an idea of what the prices are. And a Big Mac meal is 8 euros, which is about almost $9 US. And that's not really too bad considering where we're at downtown, next to a busy train station. Then they have a lot of souvenir shops. This one sells luggage, sunglasses, and other little souvenirs. Here's a food rock, and get a personal sized pizza with a soda for 8.5 euros. More souvenirs and suitcases. Here's the souvenirs. Rome souvenirs, Italy souvenirs. And they also have quite a bit of shopping inside of the train station itself. It's almost like a little mall, though I think you might be able to get, if you're just looking for like a cheap backpack or a suitcase, you probably get a better deal with these street vendors. And they also sell clothing here too, which sometimes it's kind of hit or miss what you might find. I guess it's like almost going to a yard sale. Here's some socks, 2 euros for a pack of 3. That's a good deal if you forgot your socks. I'm now on the Ponte Vittorio Emanuele II bridge, which overlooks the Tiber River. And this wash basin here is very well made. The walls are even made out of this large block, and they also even have a stairway from the street that leads down to the riverbed. And it looks like there's some seagulls down there near the Tiber, enjoying a nice afternoon here in Rome. And they even have some classical Roman artwork on the bridge itself. And then across the way, that would be the Castle St. Angelo, which was built between 123 and 139 AD as a mausoleum for the Roman Emperor Hadrian and his family. The building was later used by the Catholic Church and is now a museum. And this rather large white limestone and marble building is the Victor Emmanuel II Monument, which was built between 1885 and 1935 to commemorate both the reunification of Italy and also Italy's first king, Victor Emmanuel. And right in front of the Italy's national monument, there's a really old looking historic site, and I'm just gonna walk over to this sign over here. This says it's the Auditoria di Andrio, which was built between 125 and 135 AD. And at one time this was a auditorium, and not a whole lot is left of this auditorium anymore. And it looks like rather busy afternoon here on this rainy day in Rome. And this is the hotel that I've been staying at for part of my time here in Rome. This is the Hotel Morago, which is more of like a bed and breakfast or just a smaller hotel. And it is located a bit outside of Rome, about 20 miles from the downtown area and about 10 miles from the main airport. And though it is a little bit far from everything, there are quite a few public transportation options. There's a train station which is about 2 to 3 miles away, and that's accessible by public bus, and that does offset the location quite a bit. And also the price of this hotel is quite a bit cheaper than a comparable hotel in downtown Rome. The Hotel Morago is currently $78 per night, and a comparable hotel in the downtown area would be at least double to triple that. And it also has just a nice kind of rustic feel to it. It has this nice garden area, and overall it's pretty well kept up. So let's go inside and check out the Hotel Morago. And this is my room at the Hotel Morago, and there's a couple things that are interesting about this room. The first is the kind of key that the hotel uses, and you could say that this is rather old-fashioned. It's just this very simple key, and then to lock the door from the inside, it's basically the same process as it is from the outside. Insert the key and turn, and hopefully that will lock the door. Anyhow, the room itself has a nice tall vaulted ceiling with a queen size bed, a small TV with a desk, and it also has this large window, though there is no screen. So at night you have to just remember to close the window so bugs don't get in. And it also has air conditioning and heat. And then one other thing that is interesting about this room is the bathroom has a bath with a shower, but then for the toilet, the tank for the toilet is up by the ceiling, and I have not seen that before. And the only thing that I could figure out why they would do that is just to possibly free up space for the toilet itself. If the tank was on the toilet like most bathrooms, there just might not be as much room. Anyhow, that's just how they built this bathroom. It's just rather interesting, and it also has a little bidet as well if you're into those. And overall, for the price, this is probably a okay value. The hotel is a bit on the old side, but considering the location where you're at in Rome, overall I think it's a good deal, and I would stay here again. I'm now walking near my hotel in the Fringina neighborhood, and there's a couple things that are rather interesting about this area. The first is how almost every house either has a large hedge around it or a wall, and I'm not sure if that's done for security or privacy purposes, or perhaps maybe both. And then something else that's interesting is how these houses are constructed, and some are made out of brick and others are just entirely concrete. And you don't see really too many old concrete houses in the US, though one thing that they do have in common with houses in the United States is the roofs here. Tile seems to be popular, and now I'm kind of in an area where there's just can't even see the houses with all these hedges. But anyhow, then looking at the homes for sale online, there's an ad. First, it doesn't list the address of the house. It says address not listed to protect seller's privacy. And I thought that was kind of odd, because in the US, of course, not only is the address listed, but there's usually a for sale sign in front of the house and everything else as well. And anyhow, the ad goes on. 3 floors, 400 meters squared, which in square feet, 1 square meter is about 11 square feet. So that this is about a 4,400, an ad for a house that's 4,400 square feet, 14 bedroom, 4 bathrooms, lot size 8,000 square feet. And for these huge houses, some of them are on rather smaller lots, and I guess they do that in the US too. And then yeah, it continues: air conditioning, natural gas heat, swimming pool, garden, terrace, and balcony, built in 1964, and the price is $732,000. And though $732,000 might not be cheap for a 14-bedroom house, that is actually somewhat reasonable. And this is the Basilica of St. Mary Major, which is a Catholic church that was built in the 18th century. And just from looking at the outside, I actually thought it would be older than the 18th century, but that is what my online map is telling me, so I will just go with that information. And this is a very large church building. It even has a clock tower, and the clock would be correct. It's about 5:15, so it's starting to get a little bit late here, and I'm still kind of on the hunt for hotels in downtown Rome. And my map says that there is a Antico Palazzo Hotel that is nearby, and it's actually rather easy to get lost in an area like this, just because there are just so many different streets and different ways that you can go. But thankfully my phone does have the GPS on it, and it looks like the Antico Palazzo Hotel is right behind the St. Mary's Church. And I'm not sure if this line is to give tours of the church, or if these visitors are attending church. It looks like they do have a security checkpoint here, and I don't know if there's a charge to view the inside of the church or not, but it is a very large building. It takes up just about this entire block, and it's a very impressive building as well. I would say it's at least 4, 5, maybe 6 stories tall, and then it has this large dome here in the back. Just a huge building, and it looks like the Palazzo Hotel is right there across the street. And online, this is listed as a 4-star hotel for 165 euros per night, which is about 180 US dollars. However, this hotel does also have quite a few complaints. One user writes, "As for location, it is fine, but this is the oldest hotel I have ever seen in my whole life. Everything was so old that it smelled old. I could not use the bathroom for 2 days until I bought cleaners and cleaned it. The bed sheets and wardrobes were so dirty and old, I could not use them. The only good thing was the location." And then another reviewer writes, "Very small old room with mold in the bathroom. Toilet paper, shower gel, etc. were not replenished. The breakfast consisted almost exclusively of old pastries and dirty dishes. Service was generally very unfriendly. We've traveled a lot around the world and never visited such a bad hotel." And the owner does respond to the last complaint, and the manager's response is kind of interesting. And it says it's in German, which they translate online, and it says, "Calling our hotel ugly already expresses his enormous prejudice. A historic building dating back to 1600, imbued with charm and atmosphere, and allowing the customer staying there to immerse themselves in an unusual context that will certainly characterize and make unique their stay in our city. You cannot denigrate as you did with your comment. The room she lived in is large, comfortable, and has an absolutely comfortable bathroom. Cleaning is done regularly every day, and the toilet flush is refilled on time. I'm not sure what that means. The toilet flush is refilled on time. I think that's part of the translation, kind of the sentence getting lost in translation. And then let's see, it continues on. We are sure that his criticism will not be taken into account, and kind of continues on from there, but just you kind of get the general idea that the owner did disagree with the reviewers' comments, and they think that a big part of the reviewers' displeasure could be related to just it being a historic building, perhaps. And this is the Basilica of St. Mary Major, which is a Catholic church that was built in the 18th century. And just from looking at the outside, I actually thought it would be older than the 18th century, but that is what my online map is telling me, so I will just go with that information. And this is a very large church building. It even has a clock tower, and the clock would be correct. It's about 5:15, so it's starting to get a little bit late here, and it's also starting to get a bit cloudy. And what I was saying about the rain the past few days, when it rains here, it just really makes things difficult, because a lot of these sidewalks are very narrow, and they're just not really made for people to be walking around with umbrellas. So it just gets a bit more difficult to walk around here when it rains, so hopefully that will not happen. And anyhow, getting back to this plaza and the St. Mary Major Church, it also looks like there's a lot of businesses in this plaza area. There's a Castoro supermarket across the street, and then I'm still kind of on the hunt for hotels in downtown Rome, and my map says that there is a Antico Palazzo Hotel that is nearby, and it's actually rather easy to get lost in an area like this, just because there are just so many different streets and different ways that you can go. But thankfully my phone does have the GPS on it, and it looks like the Antico Palazzo Hotel is right behind the St. Mary's Church. And I'm not sure if this line is to give tours of the church, or if these visitors are attending church. It looks like they do have a security checkpoint here, and I don't know if there's a charge to view the inside of the church or not, but it is a very large building. It takes up just about this entire block, and it's a very impressive building as well. I would say it's at least 4, 5, maybe 6 stories tall, and then it has this large dome here in the back. Just a huge building, and it looks like the Palazzo Hotel is right there across the street. And online, this is listed as a 4-star hotel for 165 euros per night. which is about 180 US dollars. However, this hotel does also have quite a few complaints. One user writes, "As for location, it is fine, but this is the oldest hotel I have ever seen in my whole life. Everything was so old that it smelled old. I could not use the bathroom for 2 days until I bought cleaners and cleaned it. The bed sheets and wardrobes were so dirty and old, I could not use them. The only good thing was the location." And then another reviewer writes, "Very small old room with mold in the bathroom. Toilet paper, shower gel, etc. were not replenished. The breakfast consisted almost exclusively of old pastries and dirty dishes. Service was generally very unfriendly. We've traveled a lot around the world and never visited such a bad hotel." And the owner does respond to the last complaint, and the manager's response is kind of interesting. It says it's in German, which they translate online, and it says, "Calling our hotel ugly already expresses his enormous prejudice. A historic building dating back to 1600, imbued with charm and atmosphere, and allowing the customer staying there to immerse themselves in an unusual context that will certainly characterize and make unique their stay in our city. You cannot denigrate as you did with your comment. The room she lived in is large, comfortable, and has an absolutely comfortable bathroom. Cleaning is done regularly every day, and the toilet flush is refilled on time." I'm not sure what that means. The toilet flush is refilled on time. I think that's part of the translation, kind of the sentence getting lost in translation. And then let's see, it continues on. "We are sure that his criticism will not be taken into account," and kind of continues on from there, but just you kind of get the general idea that the owner did disagree with the reviewer's comments, and they think that a big part of the reviewer's displeasure could be related to just it being a historic building, perhaps. And just one more example of how expensive hotels are here in Rome. I'm just down the street from the Colosseum, and on this corner there's a Mercure Hotel, which is a French brand 3-star hotel. And this is similar to a Best Western or maybe even a Holiday Inn. And it's a 3-star hotel, and currently one night here is $470 per night, which is rather expensive for a 3-star hotel, though it does just happen to be down the street from the Colosseum. And I'm now next to the Arch of Constantine, and what is interesting is the stonework in front of the arch appears to be the original stones from when the arch was built, and it's just these large rocks that are placed in the ground, and you do have to pick your path rather carefully when walking, and it is a little bit uncomfortable to walk on these, and it must have been really difficult for horses and carriages to traverse on roads such as these. And something else that's interesting about these buildings here in Rome are quite a few have these metal roll down shutters, and it looks like they basically function like a garage door, and it just closes and protects the whole window. And this building is showing up on my map as a hospital, and they even have this statue in front This is like the corner of the hospital, and the statue says, "I was ill and you visited me," and hopefully whoever this person is, they indeed got better. And something else that's interesting about these buildings here in Rome are quite a few have these metal roll down shutters, and it looks like they basically function like a garage door, and it just closes and protects the whole window. And this building is showing up on my map as a hospital, and they even have this statue in front. This is like the corner of the hospital, and the statue says, "I was ill and you visited me," and hopefully whoever this person is, they indeed got better. This is the Best Western Corsi, which is about 20 miles from downtown Rome, and I've been staying here for the second part of my trip. And one thing to keep in mind is, though the map might say it's about a mile from the train station, it's pretty much impossible to walk that mile, because just down this street the sidewalk will end, and then you'll pretty much get into this tall jungle stuff like that grass across the street. The only way you can get to the train station is either by car, taxi, or one of these buses, which come by about every 45 minutes or so. And this is my room at the Best Western. Excuse the mess, kind of in a little bit of a hurry this morning, but it is just a standard hotel room for this hotel chain. There's one queen size bed, and then it has a pretty nice view of this part of the city. And one thing that is a bit unusual about this room is the placement of the shower, which is right here. And not really sure why they did this, because the shower shares the space with the bedroom. So that's just something to keep in mind if you are sharing the room with someone else. And I really don't know why they did that, but anyhow, that's just what they did with that. And then here's the bathroom. And the current nightly rate for the Best Western is $104 per night. And considering the prices of the hotels in downtown Rome, which are probably about double for a comparable hotel, I would probably stay here again at this Best Western. Once a pagan temple, this is the Roman Pantheon, which was built in the 1st century AD. And then by the 6th century was converted into a Catholic church, which is what it remains to this day. And in the center they have this square with a nice water fountain. And it is now almost nighttime. However, I still have time for one more hotel review, and this is just to show people what you can get for $100 here in downtown Rome. And this is the Hotel Beauty, which current nightly rate is $94 per night, and apparently it also doubles as a hostel as well, though it does have quite a few complaints, and some of them are rather interesting. One person writes, "The place was really filthy. The room was dirty and stinky. We arrived late after our delayed flight and had to wait a long time for the receptionist to give us a key. We were given one towel for 2 people, and the towel was dirty and stinky. The doors and walls were dirty, and you couldn't touch anything. Even the curtain fabrics were dirty and smelled bad. Thank God I took my sheets and pillowcase with me. We had to keep the door to the bathroom closed all day because there was a bad smell. There was no hot water, and we weren't able to take a shower for 3 days. I went to the receptionist to ask him why, and he said they would try to fix it. This place needs to be fixed as soon as possible." And there's quite a few more complaints just like that one, and apparently the management does not feel the need to answer them because there are no answers listed on the Google website. So that is what $94 per night will get you here in downtown Rome. Grocery shopping in Rome. This is the Puex store supermarket, which is owned by the Gross Group. Rather interesting combination of words there. Anyhow, continuing on, first section is the produce, and grapes are €3 per kilogram, which is about $1.50 per pound. Oranges are 1.4 euros per kilo, which is about 75 cents per pound. And they have a pretty large selection of produce here. Tomatoes are 2.2 euros per kilogram. That's about $1.25 per pound. And lettuce is 2 euros per kilo, which is about $1 per pound for the lettuce. And here's lunch meats. Each pack, these are ham and chicken for about $3 per pack for the lunch meat. And here's eggs, and these look like 6 packs for 1.7 euros each. And here's some cheeses, and these are about 2-3 euros per pack, and it says it's about 15 euros per kilo for the cheese, which is about $7 a pound. And there's more salamis, and here's meat, and this is looks like cuts of veal, and the ad says 19 euros per kilo, which is about $9 per pound for the veal. And I believe veal is just baby calf. And here's ground beef, 8 euros per kilo, that's about $4 per pound. And then they have all kinds of cheeses here, and these range from $8 a pound to $6 per pound. And here's poultry, and chicken legs are about $2.50 per pound, and chicken wings also about $2.50 per pound for the chicken wings. And here's a pack of sausages, 6.6 euros for those. And though I did see a lot of cheeses, I did not see any milk yet, and sometimes they have it further away from everything. Here's yogurts, about 75 cents to $1 per cup of yogurt. And then here's the milk, and milk is sold in 1 liter containers, and each one is about 2 euros per liter. So that works out to about $8 per gallon for the milk. And then more salamis and hams. And the dessert section, ice cream is rather expensive. Those look like quarter gallons for 5 euros each. And there's smaller containers for almost 2 euros, and that's just kind of almost bite-sized little small containers. Then Haagen-Dazs is actually one of the cheaper brands, 4 euros for a pint of Haagen-Dazs.